space, a very large place to keep your stuff. These are the voyages of the Starship Discovery and the Starship Shinzu, or however the hell you pronounce it.
I think it's Shenzhou.
Hi, I'm Scott Pyburn.
Hey, Dom DeBellis.
Welcome to Monkeys Drinking Beans and Plastic Star Trek Tumblers.
Says you.
Ow! Coffee through a straw is hot. Because I'm a dumbass. For this episode, I wanted to show off my shiny Star Trek tumbler, so I put it with the lid, and it's very hot. But
very nice.
But, generic Star Trek tumblers
your mouth.
Keep coffee hot.
This is Captain James Kirk of the USS Enterprise.
So today this is episode we've been waiting and dying to tape this episode. Star Trek Discovery premieres this coming Sunday on CBS television, and then will be exclusively on CBS All Access and nowhere else.
Yes.
So this is the big issue, the big controversy. Obviously, I'm wearing my Trek gear today. Dom's wearing his Trek gear today. Da-da-da! Shit, it's broken. Oh, well.
We're open a channel dual decks.
If Scott dematerializes during this broadcast, it's because he's been beamed aboard.
Yes. Well, I wanted to originally film this episode with a green screen behind me and beam in, but I've got better things to do with my time than figure out how to do all that techno garble. So let's get to it, man. Star Trek Discovery. All right. What are we going to cover? What are we not going to cover? Because there's so many articles out there on it's 8 years before Kirk and Spock.
Yes, that's correct.
Is it canon? Is it not canon? And these are some articles that just popped up recently. I'm very excited to say that the producers of the Star Trek have said it is in the prime timeline.
Yes.
Now, for those of you who are really confused, and Dom and I were confused until about 12 hours ago how this worked.
Yes.
The prime timeline includes the 5 original Star Trek series and 10 films. The original 10 films, not the J.J. Abrams films. The J.J. Abrams films is called the Abrams-verse or the Kelvin-verse. I'm a little confused about this. Any hardcore Trekkies that are out there that are more hardcore than us, straighten us out. But we found an article that basically said, and correct me fans if I'm wrong in the notes and the commentary below, but the Kelvin-verse or the Kelvin timeline is basically from the first Star Trek movie when Kirk's dad was on the USS Kelvin moving forward. Well, here's the thing. Star Trek Discovery is set before that. So this is where it gets a little wonky, okay? Because the production design looks very Abrams universe. But this is before Abrams, before Spock blows up Vulcan. So it's pre-Abrams. Ergo, it is in the prime timeline.
Right. And we have an article from the Huffington Post where a couple of the insiders on the show, including one of the actors and one of the writers, say as much. So I'm going to reference that article now so you all can go Google it. It's on the Huffington Post. And it's the article by... Sorry?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, we'll put these links on our Facebook page. If you follow us on our Facebook page and our website, we'll put these links on a website accompanying the show. So if you can't find them, you'll be able to find them.
And it's written by S. Daniel Carter, who is a contributor to the Huff Post. It says that, and he's quoting the Discovery actor Anthony Rapp and the Star Trek author David Mack, who have confirmed that, quote unquote, yes, Discovery is in the prime timeline, wrote Mack. Apparent discrepancies will be addressed and resolved. It works. Unquote.
So that bit is the bit that I am super excited about, is the fact that they said discrepancies will be addressed and dismissed or basically resolved, because the big one is the Klingons. Okay?
Yes.
For the hardcore geeks, if you know, Kirk era Klingons were pre-Ridgehead, pre-Turtlehead Klingons. And they actually addressed this in Star Trek Next Generation episode Trials and Tribulations, which is one of the greatest Star Trek episodes of all time, where they digitally go back to the Trouble with Tribbles episode.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that's a Deep Space Nine episode. Oh my God.
It was a Deep Space Nine episode.
I'm getting old. I'm forgetting my Trek canon. I'm getting old and senile. I wouldn't have forgotten that 5 years ago.
That's okay, man.
But yeah, one of the best Deep Space Nine episodes of all time. It's one of my favorites. Where basically they're in the bar with Harry Mudd and they look around and say, "Wait a minute, those are Klingons?" And Worf looks at him and says, "We do not discuss it with outsiders." So I'm hoping that is going to be the big Easter egg. There will be non-Ridgehead Klingons, there will be regular Klingons, and hopefully they'll find a way to finally resolve that with the fans. That would be huge.
And I don't see that as a major deal.
It's not a deal breaker if they don't address it, but it would be cool if they really do connect the dots completely, because then it would prove to the fans that this is going to be a canon show in the prime timeline. It's not going to be a J.J. Abrams, oh, you know what, I have to destroy Vulcan so then I don't have to follow canon for God knows how long back and deal with all the previous stuff that came before me, which is lazy writing. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I really liked the Abrams films for what they were. Would like to see another one, but yeah, I mean, you and I have discussed this. It kind of pisses in the fans' faces saying, yeah, now we don't have to acknowledge, 50-something plus years of Star Trek history.
Right. So I think, I'm very enthusiastic about I too am very enthusiastic about the J.J. Abrams franchises. And I'm also very excited about Discovery, but like many fans, I've said this before on the show, I'm not going to watch the show.
Security alert to all decks.
Yes. I just I don't want to pay to play, and I'm kind of miffed that CBS is raking us over the coals to just get another $10 a month out of us, because I'm already paying for Netflix and I'm already paying for internet. I'm not gonna pony up the $10 a month.
Well, and we're going to talk about that in a future show coming up. We're going to do a show about streaming. Is it the new cable? And we're going to talk more about that. But yeah, I kind of agree. The fact that
way to give that away, Scott.
Well, it's a lead. It's a lead. Come back next time and you'll see. This is what we're going to talk about. It won't be next time, but it'll be in a future show.
Yes, it will.
Show up and you'll be pleased. Don't show up and what are you going to do? I don't know.
Direct engineering, Mr. Scott, report.
Because I'm sure that our fans can relate. There's a lot of different people with their hands out waiting to pick your pocket for another subscription.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's becoming, and again, future show, but it's becoming cable. Like, okay, everybody's got their own subscription service, and now Disney's announced it. Again, we're going to cover this in a future show, but the issue with the Star Trek fans, and I agree, and here's the thing, I agree, but I don't agree, because I may actually subscribe to it. I don't know, but here's the thing, it's going to cost me something.
You're a scab, you're crossing the union line.
It's going to cost me something, okay? I'm going to have to cancel a service in order to do it, because, and honestly, in my opinion, I don't watch CBS that much. I watch it for The Big Bang Theory, and that's it. So, I mean, granted, they've had a lot of great shows over the years. They're the home to I Love Lucy, they're the home to Taxi. They've got a huge, rich catalog that they're putting up on their All Access. You get access to All Access. It's called All Access for a reason. You get access to every bit of CBS's library. God bless them for that. Hopefully Disney does the same thing. Again, another show squirrel. But that is the big issue of contention is, okay, they're going to tease it on Channel 2 this Sunday. It's going to be on the air, the first episode.
Yeah.
The teaser. And then you've got to pay to see the strip.
Right.
Yeah. Don't know how I feel about that. Like I said, I'm debating.
Right. But it is relevant to this show that we're talking about today. So
yes, but let's get into some of the things we're excited about the show, as opposed to the one huge 800-pound Klingon in the room that we're not, excited about. So they're gonna touch on some great things. Rainn Wilson from The Office fame is going to be playing Harry Mudd. Mm-hmm. And he's supposed to be a very darker version of Harry Mudd, which is really cool. The show is going to focus on 2 starships, not 1. So even though it's called Star Trek Discovery, there's also the starship Shenzhou, which has another captain. And apparently one of the characters who's not a captain is going to be the lead. I read an article on that. Is going to be one of the alternate leads. So it's going to be like Riker is just as important as Picard, you know. And
apparently it's a science officer. Is that correct?
I think so. There's so many articles out there, and part of what I didn't want to do and what I should have done is I should have prepared by reading all the articles, but then I don't want to read all the spoilers. I kind of want to be like, oh, okay, this is a reason you need to take my $6 a month, because I want to be excited about it.
I will. May I actually talk about the one article that I did read was that it actually the series does focus on one character who is apparently the first human who has ever been accepted into the Vulcan
Science Academy. Yes, I read that.
Science Academy of the Vulcans, and that character is serving aboard either the Shenzhou or the Discovery. I'm not sure which.
And I think I read that she was trained by Sarek,
Spock's
father.
That's an even bigger.
Yeah, so there's another connect the dots.
Sure. So I think that's a fascinating thread, for a lot of storytelling. So apparently the story begins on the Shenzhou and then eventually shifts to the Discovery, and I don't know how the story will encompass both ships. But then there's also the Klingons, who are introduced by way of their sarcophagus ship, which is fascinating because apparently the Klingons embalm their dead, or at least these Klingons do. These Klingons are sort of mysterious because in the whole lore of Trek, these Klingons are sort of ancient.
Yeah, there's supposed to be like a 200-year-old ancient house or ancient subset of the Klingons. It explains a few things why most of them are bald. It explains the coloration, how they're very purplish. It's supposed to explain the dramatic change in production design of the Klingons. But they've also hinted and promised that they're going to connect the dots to eventually what we know as Klingons. And hopefully, again, like I said before, hopefully they'll explain the human-esque Klingons and the Ridgehead Klingons at some point. That would be great.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming a lot of this is going to deal with, if you remember Kirk's era, the original Star Trek show, basically it dealt with the fact that the Klingons were the big bad, and the Federation was at war or pseudo-war with the Klingons and, the sort of the Romulans. So what I'm hoping Discovery is going to do is going to set up that war. How the humans and the Klingons first met, how they decided to go to war with each other, and then build to the peace or pseudo-peace that we eventually know in TOS,
Yeah. So the Klingons come on the scene in this sarcophagus ship, and something about this ship that's so fascinating to me. It's the Klingons embalm their dead, and then they affix their sarcophagus of the dead to the outside of the ship.
Yeah, like kind of like armor, like they're undead warriors that are still protecting the ship. I can't wait to see how they explain this and how they do this. The production design for this ship is amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And at first, the Klingons were very off-putting, but the more and more that they put out there and teased, the more fascinated I became with them. I even drew a sketch card of one of them because I was like, this is really cool. The more and more I learned. But they're going to definitely explain that. They're going to explain why they look so different. Doug Jones, who I met a few years back when I hosted the Buffy the Vampire Slayer panel, is playing a new alien. Who's very mysterious.
He always plays such interesting characters.
He's like Ron Perlman. It's like you almost never see him out of makeup. He's that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to finally see him in a role where, aside from Abe Sapien and Hellboy and Buffy, where he had no lines, I'm finally excited to see him in like a starring role.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time coming for him, But I don't know much about the alien. I click on a link and I scan it, but I'm like, I don't want to know. Wait and see the pilot.
I have kind of teased out a little bit about this character because I was fascinated with some of the teasers that have been out there. Apparently, Doug Jones plays a character who is from a planet where his race of alien evolved as a prey species, for lack of a better term, and was hunted by this predator species on the planet. And so they evolved, the prey species, played by Doug Jones, in Discovery, evolved this sort of sixth sense of knowing when death was near. Mm-hmm. And that's how he expresses it in the TV show.
Yeah. His character's name is
I'm sorry?
His character's name is Lieutenant Saru.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, we don't even have to really link a lot of articles. It's all over the place, but we'll link a few of these articles, on the show page.
Oh, sure. But yeah. So it's interesting because he explains that eventually on the show that he was one of these people who were living as prey on their home planet, on their home world, and so he's not really used to being what's the word? Free to be wandering around on a spaceship.
Right.
In fact, he's the first of his people to be allowed in Starfleet.
Right.
So, it's a really big deal for him his people.
It is a really big deal. I mean, the production design in the show is amazing. I'm so excited to be able to see. We've seen a lot of different starships in Star Trek, from the original series, Next Generation, the movies, but to feature two actual ships and two sets in one show, I think is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention the costume design, the props that I've seen.
Well, and that was the big thing we talked about a little bit earlier about how we were scared it was going to be in the Abrams verse, but it's because the set design looks very J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
It completes the canon because Enterprise had those blue-gray jumpsuits.
Yeah.
And then Abrams took the blue-gray jumpsuits and created the Abrams dress uniforms, out of those. So it's connecting the dots very well. But I'm happy it's going to connect them backwards.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And the what was I going to say? To the creature design. So I was going to say to tie together the set design, the costume design, the props, the creature design, because you got the different races of aliens, and as you pointed out, the Klingons, the new alien that Doug Jones plays. You got all of these different races coexisting in the Star Trek universe, and you got and who knows what they're going to reveal during the course of the season.
Yeah, I just hope, in a sense, and again, we talked about this briefly, how important canon is, okay, to storytelling. Sure. And my issue, and we talked about this in our production meeting off camera, how Enterprise, originally we were not happy with Abrams because Abrams basically just flushed canon down the toilet. We liked the movies, but that was the one issue we had with Abrams, was he flushed canon down the toilet by destroying Vulcan and basically saying, well, here's Back to the Future. We've skewed this. Now it's in an alternate timeline. Now we can do what we want. Okay.
Well, canon is important for continuity.
Right. So what I'm hoping, and we also discussed how Enterprise kind of did that before Abrams, having Ridgehead Klingons show up in the very first episode. And then it's like, they didn't get 7 seasons, so they only got 4 seasons. So they never really got a chance to round end that and hopefully explain that, even though the writers and producers said, well, we were going to. Well, you didn't get the chance. And so it's out there now. They did a few things, like the Ferengi episode where Next Generation, the Ferengis buying the wormhole go disappear. They show up in Enterprise. That was brilliant. They did do some connecting the dots, but then they brought in the Borg. They brought in, all these beings. It's like,
Right.
and all these races that the issue is all these races we never saw before or we never saw after. It's like this is like Star Wars Episode 1. Everything's nice and shiny. And then we get 1977 technology. It's like, it's a little too shiny, a little too squeaky. We're going to see aliens like Lieutenant Saru. What happened to his race? Because in canon, we never saw them ever again. So there's a fine line between you're introducing new aliens, and granted, the universe is huge. God bless them. Maybe we don't ever have to see them again. Maybe maybe that he was the only one in Starfleet. That was it. But don't bring in the Borg, please, because then you're really flushing canon. Okay,
Right.
It's been don't use the excuse of, well, it's already been flushed down the toilet. We can dig that turd out and shine it up and present it to the new audience, because I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
I'm with you. Canon is I don't know, man. Canon is important. It goes to characters. It goes to continuity. It goes to.
But they're also noticing. They're also saying that and again, by saying that it's in the prime timeline, by committing to that and saying that the dots will be connected, and then things like there was a bottle of Chateau Picard on one of the bridges, from Picard's. So because
Is that right?
Yeah, you're going to see it. I don't know if you're going to see it in the premiere episode, but they said in one episode you see a bottle of Chateau Picard, because in Next Generation his family has established winemakers for generations.
Yes, they are.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of a little tip to the hat to Next Gen. So
I see.
I have high hopes that they're going to do this right.
Okay.
They're also flushing one other issue. They call it the Roddenberry box, where
Yes.
basically Starfleet officers were not really allowed to have conflict with one another. They had to be the shiny, happy people. The conflict had to be with aliens and with other species, but not within the.
And let's talk about why it's called the Roddenberry box, because it was actually Gene Roddenberry's rule to the writers
Yes.
all those years back, right? Back in the 60s when he started the whole thing, was, hey, you cannot write scenarios where you're having conflicts between Starfleet officers, right? Where they have a conflict that paints one or both, right?
Yeah, in a negative light.
In a negative, like as basically having human frailties.
Right, which Seth MacFarlane's actually spoofing and touching on with his show, The Orville, which is very
Yeah.
Star Trek, very Galaxy Quest-esque. But I'm glad that they've thrown away that rule, because we're human beings.
Well, and Gene's reasoning for that was we're depicting a universe in which man has moved forward.
And evolved, yeah.
We've evolved so that we're not as petty as we were, We've leaped forward. We don't have money anymore, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So we don't have greed anymore, right? So it sort of made sense in his mind that we've outgrown certain other petty character flaws, for lack of a better term,
And
so the writers were always in this little box,
Yeah.
and they felt like, well, why can't we write about these characters like they're real people?
Yeah. Well, and the great thing was, once Gene, and I won't say the great thing is once Gene died, but you know what I'm.
Yeah.
God bless him, he's dead. Good. Okay, great. We can do new stories, but we started to see more of that with Voyager and with Deep Space Nine, and then eventually Voyager, where there were human conflicts. It was more serialized, which this show has said it's going to be very serialized, versus the the TOS and Next Gen format where it's like 1 hour and you got to wrap it up in 60 minutes, and then the next episode is a totally new adventure. This is going to be more comic book-esque, more, okay, this is a 12 series arc, this is a 3 series arc, there's going to be arcs from the very beginning, which I think is good because
versus being like a destination-based episode. Story.
Yeah. This episode we're going to this planet, and next episode we're at this planet.
Yes.
And it's and they wrap it up in 60 minutes, shiny happy people style,
Yeah.
Check off. Arm photon torpedoes.
Yeah. So they're blowing that up,
Right.
Which is good.
And I mean, look at how long it took for. I mean, Gene's been dead now for 20 years?
I think it was
something.
Yeah. I mean, 93. I think he died a few years after I got out of high school.
So I mean,
I could be wrong on that.
It's a long time for them to get rid of the Roddenberry box, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting show, an interesting ride, which you won't see, but until it comes to DVD, until it becomes to DVD and gets to your local library, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, okay.
Ellis, that's it. Yeah. I'm fine with that. It's okay. I have things to create.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think it's going to be a very exciting thing. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to share with anybody, but
no. Star Trek Discovery premieres this Sunday on CBS. Check your local listings for time, and comment. Let us know what you think after you watch it in the comments. We'll be very excited to see what you think.
That's right.
Resume course to our next destination, Mr. Sulu.
And with that, we will resume course to our next destination. I'm Scott Piper.
I'm Dom DeBellis.
We'll see you next time.
Yes.